This week we will be talking about the music of Indonesia. The terms that we will be going over is the gamelan. This is the main ensemble that we will be looking at. Tuning and scales. The two types of scales are the pelog and the slendro scale. A gending, which is a composition for gamelan. Loud and soft playing styles, and the differences between the music of Bali and Java. In the Southeast Asia area and the South Pacific, the countries that we have been studying, Australia you studied last week, and the main instrument, the didgeridoo. Also in this area is Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, and Indonesia. In Indonesia, we are going to be looking at two specific countries, one being Java and the other Bali. Indonesia has over 300 ethnic groups, and they are influenced by many different cultures. And here is the area that we are going to be studying this week, just north of Australia. Here is some pictures from the island of Java. You can see that Java is one of the most beautiful places in the world. There are many old cultural traditions in Indonesia and a lot of diversity, mainly because of people migrating to this area of the world. There is a national language, but also there are many different separate languages. And here is another map of the Indonesia area, and you can see Java and Bali that we will be looking at mainly. Java is very heavily populated. One of the largest cities is Jakarta, and it has over 10 million people. When we compare this to New York City, which has 7,500,000 people, we see that it's a very densely populated island. And here's a picture of downtown Jakarta. Jakarta isn't the most beautiful city in Southeast Asia, but it makes up for its great nightlife, world-class restaurants and shopping, some fascinating sights, and plenty of activities. By including Jakarta in your travels, you will give you an important glimpse of urban Indonesia, with all its excitement, opportunities, and challenges. Enjoy its 200 shopping malls and over 10 million people and amazing cuisines. Here's another picture of the island of Java. Javanese is the largest ethnic group on the island, which is about 2/3 of the island. Also another large population of Sudanese, and languages and arts are distinct from the Javanese. The Sudanese have their own language and different culture. The people in Java are mainly a farming society. The food, wet rice, rice is very popular, and the growing of rice. Religious practices, most profess to be Muslim, but only a small percentage follow Orthodox practice. So even though they're Muslim, they have their own form of religious practice. More adhere to an Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism blend. So kind of a blend of all these religions and practices are used here. Now here is a picture of a gamelon, and you can see many different instruments that are made out of bronze. The large hanging instruments in the back are called gongs, and you can see that these gongs have a knob in the center. That's what is distinct about them, differing them from what you see in China being a tam-tam. These gongs have a knob in the center that cause them to have a defined pitch. Gamelon refers to a set of instruments unified by their tuning and by decorative carvings and paintings. They primarily consist of several kinds of metal slab instruments. These slab instruments are similar to a vibraphone and kind of look like a marimba. And then the tuned knobbed gongs. The smaller ones are called katuks, and the larger ones are called gongs. They also normally have at least one drum and some other kinds of instruments. You'll see that there's a two-stringed instrument. And those in Central Java usually are large with a wide range of instruments. And Gamelan ensembles are kept in many of these court pavilions, some old and used for rare ritual occasions. Some newer are used more frequently, but most believe that the Gamelon has special powers and superstition is involved. Also in the making of the instruments, many ritualistic practices go into making these. Here's a picture of the different instruments within the Gamelon. Now here's a picture of a court gamelan. When I visited Thailand, this is an ensemble that I listened to was very similar to this, where the members sat very orderly and were dressed very nicely. Here's some other pictures. You can see the slab instruments that are very similar to a vibraphone or marimba, and the katuks. The softer style of playing is used in shadow plays. Sometimes these are all-night performances. And classical Javanese dance also takes practice in this. More activities outside of the court in contemporary society that are sponsored by private individuals, national radio station, public schools, and colleges. Much of the Gamelon music are lengthy compositions, and when I was in Thailand, these compositions would go on for an hour or more at a time, and it is common for people to walk around and also talk during these performances. Now the scale for these instruments is different than the scale in the Western countries. In the Western countries we have a 12-tone equal tempered scale, meaning that there is 100 cents between each note. So when I play, there is 100 cents, and cents is a musical measurement. Now in Java, the Palog scale, between the first two notes, there is 130 cents, and then you can see all the way up to between 7 and 1 again would be 260 cents. The Slendro scale between 1 and 2, 230 cents. So you can see that their scales will not line up with Western scales because the distance between notes is quite different. The Slendro scale is a 5-tone system made up of nearly equidistant intervals that we just saw. Then there's the Palog scale, that's a 7-note scale. Gamelons may consist entirely of one or the other, but usually they have their own set of instruments for the scale they're going to be using. And usually these scales are rarely played simultaneously.